Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity Center of Light Sunday service. Today is October 12th, 2025. I am Maxine Gill, Church Administrator, and I will be facilitating the service today. If this is your first time with us and would like to receive our newsletter and to be added to the mailing list, kindly drop your name, your email, and your telephone number in the chat. Or if you prefer, you can email it directly to me at admin@unitycenteroflight.org. Our guest speaker today is Reverend Linda Martello Whitsett, and we will go ahead and start with our service today by the reading of our mission and foundation statements. And I'm going to go ahead and share with you on the screen. Join me in reading the mission statement. The mission of Unity Center of Light is to empower individuals to express their indwelling divine identity. We teach there's a power within each of us, far greater than anything that exists outside of us. And our foundation statement, there's only one power and one presence active in my life and affairs, God, the good, omnipotent. And I've asked Bonnie to read the daily word today, and I will go ahead and unmute her so she can do that. Give me 1 second, Bonnie. Okay, you're good.
Good morning, Unity family. On this great Sunday, the daily word is entitled Worthy, and the affirmation reads, all people are worthy as children of God. It can be easy to look at others and see differences, the things that tend to keep us separate. I may even make judgments about their worthiness. But each person is so much more than their appearance, habits, and histories. Today, I commit to treating others as I would want them to treat me, as the divine beings they are. I will look beyond appearances, put aside any judgments, and open my heart to others. I will treat all others as individuations of the divine and beloved members of the human family. As I do this, I feel differences and separation fall away. I behold our similarities and feel a new kind of kinship, one born of respect and acceptance. All people are one in God, and each is worthy of inclusion and belonging. And today's scripture reading is taken from Romans 8:16. It is that very spirit bearing witness with our spirit that we are children of God.
Bonnie, thank you so much for the reading. As I mentioned, we have a guest speaker today, Reverend Linda Martello Whitsett. Reverend Linda is an award-winning New Thought author and Unity minister. She teaches that we are here to be the light of the world. Her message promotes humanity's innate capabilities with which to respond to life's circumstances in spiritual maturity. Linda is retired from Unity World Headquarters, where she served as the Vice President of Unity's 24/7 Global Prayer Ministry, Silent Unity. In years prior, Reverend Linda led Unity communities in Omaha, Nebraska, and San Antonio, Texas. She has written three books. First one was How to Pray Without Talking to God, Moment by Moment, Choice by Choice. Her second book is Divine Audacity, Dare to be the Light of the World. And her third book is The Life is Yours, Discover Your Power, Claim Your Wholeness, and Heal Your Life. Reverend Linda, welcome. Glad to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much for that welcome. And it's just wonderful to see some of your familiar faces to me and to have been invited to share some of my thoughts with you again this morning.
Can you
Uh,
turn on your camera? Sorry.
oh, okay. Sorry about that. I thought I was on. Happy to connect. And by the way, Maxine, I don't know that you why you didn't have this information, but I actually have a fourth book that published by Unity Books in September 2023, Discover Your Divinity. This is a book on affirmative prayer, not just the principles, but instruction. Anyway, I'm happy to be here, and I have some thoughts today I'd love to share with you about inspiration. So, several months back, I was invited to officiate a funeral. The deceased woman's daughter approached me after the chapel service. She was very excited because the entire time that we were undergoing this celebration of life for her mother, a robin sat on a windowsill across from the podium where we were all sharing. To this woman, it signified her mother's presence. And then that was confirmed even later at the graveside in the shelter surrounded in the distance by trees. There were birds singing all throughout the military honors and my readings and message. You know as well as I do, hummingbirds and other forms of fowl have throughout history been associated with deceased humans, presumed to now be soaring in the spiritual realm, appearing to their loved ones. Or they have some other significance to you, right? Perhaps you can recall some moments when something appeared that you recognized as a symbol, whether it was for a loved one or maybe confirmation of an idea that you had been holding. At the age of 19, I had such an experience. I was driving home after dark on a highway in Newark, New Jersey. I had just attended a session in a series of ESP classes. Remember ESP? My instructor, whose name was Ernestine Knickshield, you couldn't have a better name for a psychic, right? Well, Ernestine led us through some past life regressions and all kinds of other interesting and fascinating features of the occult that I had never been exposed to before, right? So driving home, I was feeling unsure about all this that was brand new to me. It was enticing, it was calling to me, but I was nervous because I came from a very traditional family, right? An Italian Catholic family, which meant I had had no exposure to belief systems outside what my mother called the one true church, right? So while driving, I was actively wondering whether I was heading in the right direction. And I didn't mean that literally, right? Metaphorically. Well, all of a sudden, just in the middle of this questioning, outside the driver's side of my window and up in the sky, I saw my first and to this day only shooting star. And to say that I saw a shooting star doesn't really describe my experience at all because it wasn't merely a sighting. It became a visceral experience. I mean, I felt the shooting star travel into the crown of my head, down my spine, and then shooting back up again and out. I was so startled by this and fascinated, startled is the word. I pulled over to the side of the road. But when I turned my head to look where I was going, I had a spontaneous chiropractic adjustment. I mean, every vertebra in my spine clicked into alignment. It was like nothing I had ever had happen before. And I felt amazingly wonderful. I mean, I felt like physically like, oh, this sense of ease and perfect health, but inside I also felt a confirming inner peace, like an answer to my concern that was saying you are heading in the right direction, and this experience inspired me to continue to study and to seek a path of spirituality. I mean, I was inspired. I was inspired. So during the same period, I was also attending my very first yoga class. Um, I entered that classroom again with no prior knowledge of yoga or the tradition or the practices. And the instructor had sitar music playing and Nag Champa incense was filled the room. And I was greeted by this petite Indian woman. She was wearing traditional clothing. She had the tilak or the red dot over her third eye and her waist length hair in one long braid down her back. It was brand new to me. She pointed to a yoga mat on the floor and I sat on it and I followed what other people were doing. I crossed my legs and I sat there and instantly I was transported. I mean, I saw myself in an ochre robe with a bald head. And again, I had no frame of reference for this. Think about this. This was the early 70s, and there were only three channels on television, plus PBS and the UHF channels, right? I mean, we got our information from encyclopedias back then, right? So, like, I didn't have images for this or any kind of knowledge. It was startling to me. Um, and but it was also calling to me, right? And who knows, maybe I was flashing back to a former lifetime. That's what everyone said. And I'll tell you today, I don't know what to believe about reincarnation, but the point is that I felt connected, aligned, and inspired. I would go on to live at Kripalu Yoga Center, an American ashram, for 3 years until I reconnected with Giles Whitsett and left to marry him. But I forged a future that was steeped in spiritual awareness. I was definitely inspired. Well, these mystical experiences in my early adulthood, led me to a life I had never imagined. And some of you are nodding your head. You know what I'm talking about. Um, and so I'm thinking about birds and flying and inspiration and divine ideas. I want to tell you, my dad in the year 2017, this is when I started serving Silent Unity. My dad, who was a stained glass artist, at the age of 87, he made a replica of the Silent Unity cupola above the prayer chapel at Unity Village. I don't know if you've ever been there, but you've probably seen images of it. This stained glass replica of the cupola hangs inside the prayer vigil chapel now at Silent Unity to this very day. Well, my dad was also a creative person, and he had inspiration. He dreamed of solutions for some of his stained glass art, and so he told me he added a surprise to the picture. So when I received the package and unveiled it, I found my dad had painted birds around the outside of the cupola. Birds. Now, my Roman Catholic dad had no idea of the significance of birds in unity, in metaphysics, right? That birds represent divine ideas, inspiration. How amazing is it that my dad had been inspired to add them? Isn't that fascinating? I want to show you a picture of the stained glass piece. Can you see it? This is the actual piece that he sent to me, um, with the amber colored light and all these. This was all iron work, wires and iron work. He did such a beautiful replica, and here are the birds, the birds flying out there. There's another picture. Let's see if I can pull that up for you here. Hold on, because this one you really see when the sunlight comes through, you see the color of it, the amber lights and all of that. It just a remarkable piece, and I'm so proud, and he was so proud to offer this to Unity. So I wanted to share those pictures with you. My dad made his transition just a couple years ago now, and he's always in my thoughts. And he was really a demonstration of inspiration. So, speaking of all of this, of divine ideas and inspiration, I'll just share with you what I know. It is always raining divine ideas. It's always, divine ideas are always flowing. Charles Fillmore said it this way: divine ideas are humans' inheritance. They are pregnant with all possibility because ideas are the foundation and the cause of all that humans desire. He said, all the ideas contained in the one mind, the divine mind, are at the mental command of its offspring. He said, get behind a thing into the mental realm where it exists as an inexhaustible idea, and you can draw upon it perpetually and never deplete the source. And this is pretty profound, because it's where time and space are finite, of and bring into expression every divine idea. But that doesn't mean that there are not infinite divine ideas and possibilities, and limitations, an aspect of our human incarnation. So the question for me is always, what moves me to take hold of one divine idea rather than all the other possibilities, It's inspiration. It's it's feeling the sense of being guided towards something. It is the pure possibility that connects that idea to me. I mean, to be inspired is to get a sense of what could be, to feel uplifted and engaged by that idea, and to want it enough to rearrange everything else in my life to make room for it. you know? So again, Fillmore says, let it be understood we're teaching the science of spirit. And those that are receptive to this teaching will be inspired to spiritual consciousness. It's not difficult to accomplish. It's receiving the breath or the inspiration of spirit. Remember in the Gospel of John, that symbol of inspiration itself, Jesus breathed on his apostles and said to them, receive ye the Holy Spirit. Pure inspiration, divine ideas. So while it's possible to describe inspiration and to experience it, you know as well as don't you, that inspiration can't be processed entirely by our intellect. The inspiration is a mystical experience of alignment with the divine ideas. And I think of it as the starting place for creativity, you know? So that just how, and it's an image that I hold of a divine idea. I remember when Giles and my son, Adrian, when he was 4 years old, we moved for the first time to the Midwest after living in Honolulu, where he grew up. So he had never seen snow except on Sesame Street, right? And so all he wanted to do was what he had seen on Sesame Street of kids, standing out in the snow with their tongues hanging out to catch a snowflake on his tongue, right? Or to make snow angels. So I just love the imagery of snowflakes as a representation, because here's what happens. Those falling snowflakes Just like stars in the sky or grains of sand on the shoreline, they represent abundance, do they not? They represent infinity. So turn your thoughts just for a moment to a time when you experienced awe in the presence of abundance. This is the realm of infinite possibilities. It's Jesus's kingdom of the heavens, the realm of divine ideas. And like snowflakes, no two divine ideas are identical, yet each provides the substance of creativity for us to then shape and form. So, because what happens when I catch a snowflake, whether it's on the tongue or in my hand, when a snowflake lands, form, right? So, and it's into possibility to be shaped and molded to form. The practice of inspiration in this way. I start by recognizing a divine idea. And how do I do that? Well, I start to pay attention to my desires, to my curiosity, to my longing. Oftentimes that's experienced as a feeling of something's missing, right? There's just something more that I'm in search of. So notice fresh possibilities, ideas that may be familiar and resurgent, perhaps, or unexpected and novel. In other words, paying attention for those divine ideas. An example, every once in a while I get this idea to maybe go for that college degree that I'd put off for years and years, right? So, what do I do with that idea? Well, the idea is to breathe life into it, that breath of inspiration. And how do I do that? I vet that idea, intellectually, because we have the intellect. I research, I plan, I look at what's going to be required if I should follow that idea, right? Emotionally, I feel it out. How do I feel when myself with that diploma in my hand, for example? And how do I feel thinking about the time commitment and the logistics involved? How to integrate the demands of this pursuit with all the other present commitments that I hold. And importantly, spiritually, does the idea thrill me? Does it give me a sense of greater vitality? Does it inspire me? See, I breathe life into that idea. I'm starting to shape it already in my imagination, you see. And then the only next logical thing, and this follows the creative process as we teach it in Unity, is that I have to at some point embody that divine idea if it will actually have power in my life. And so, having been inspired, having thought it through, having set things in motion, now I demonstrate it. Now I can fulfill it. And I can take the action steps, humanly to get that college degree, as an example. One of the most inspiring messages to me that I've ever read from Charles Fillmore is this one. Listen to this with me. You can do anything with the thoughts of your mind. They are yours and under your control. You can direct them, coerce them, hush them, or crush them. You can dissolve one thought and put another in its stead. There is no other place in the universe where you are the absolute master. There's no other place in the universe where you are the absolute master. So the question is, how might you utilize divine ideas for the good that you want to be a part of in the world today? I couldn't bring you snowflakes, and left the sand on the beach when I was there this last week. But another representation of divine ideas that inspire me, that I like to think of. And listen, if I was with you in person, if we could be sitting in a space together, I'd hand you all this. It's a canister of bubbles. Bubbles represent divine ideas in the same way that snowflakes do. You think about it. When a bubble lands, it changes form. It pops and it turns into a little puddle of pure possibility. You are the shaper of that idea into the things that are important to you, into what you're going to actually do based upon inspiration. So all I'll say to you as my cry and my prayer and my intention for every one of you is that you be inspired, that you look for the symbols of inspiration in your day-to-day life, and that you turn them into, a living inspired action, whatever that might be, that fulfills your vision. So let's take this into meditation. And of course, I'd love for us to meditate on divine wisdom. There's a beautiful saying as you prepare yourself. Just listen to this from Isaiah chapter 30. And when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left, your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." So I make sacred space. I invite you to make some sacred space right now. Designate this as a time and a space of opening. Engage your own breath to open, to expand your sense of God and self beyond the borders of body into the spaciousness of the realm of infinite divine mind. Establish this as a sacred space in mind, devoting attention to the powerful present moment. Establish a sacred space in heart, centralizing, concentrating divine power right where I am. And enter into the stillness, the space of prayer and meditation. What we know is there is infinity of spiritual power and presence. And among the infinite ways that we could describe the indescribable divine right now, I'm going to name it wisdom. Divine wisdom. Take hold of that divine idea of wisdom for yourself right here and now. And recognize that it is infinite, it is ever present, it is always accessible in the moment of my awareness. I recognize divine wisdom all around me in the atmosphere of infinite intelligence. I recognize divine wisdom within me as my very own guidance system. And I center my awareness on my solar plexus. I invite you to do the same, the seat of incarnate wisdom. Considered in many cases the second brain, and in some cases the first brain, because before I intellectualize an idea, I feel it. I feel it in my wisdom center. Affirm to yourself this divine idea and truth. I am divine wisdom, knowing the way forward. I am divine wisdom, knowing the way forward. Repeat this affirmation to yourself and send it It's a code of authority to send into your brain, into the nerves, tissue, muscles, and organ systems of your physical body, into your heart, into your solar plexus. I am divine wisdom, knowing the way forward. This means I am never without a sense of direction. I am wisdom. I am wisdom. The capacity to judge, to discern, to intuit wisely. Let's sit in the silence in this collective sanctuary as we hear the refrain, I am wisdom, knowing the way forward. I can tell by the way I feel whether I'm moving ahead by the power of divine wisdom. Claiming that power and owning it and demonstrating it, I discern the way to go, relying upon an inner sense of direction, not upon other people's opinions or my own fears or hesitation. I can realize divine wisdom as I easily distinguish between a true sense of direction and false hope or wishful thinking. And right here and now, I can, and I invite you too, to bring awareness to a situation that maybe you've been deliberating about or a pending decision. Just hold it gently. Consciously remove any veil of confusion or unwillingness. And just sit with this situation. Look, and if not now, sometime in the day ahead, sitting with this and allowing it to be a point of trust. I am divine wisdom, knowing the way forward, trusting what comes and moving forward intentionally. Because what we know is that when I allow wisdom, I feel a sense of peace as I anticipate what comes next. I feel a sense of confidence. I'm able to act in ways that support this decision. And I might feel just joyous anticipation now, right? Knowing that I can count on my inner sense of direction. I therefore celebrate the reality that I can't make a wrong move. I can't go in a wrong direction. I don't falter in any way. I can pause, turn within, and know the way to go. What a relief and what a joy to know that I am divine wisdom, knowing the way forward. Take a breath around that as you solidify that as a message of affirmation just for you today. I am divine wisdom, knowing the way forward. And so it is. This is the truth. And so it is. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Linda. Powerful message. Thank you.